Hello and welcome to my video paper presentation. My name is Sean Mooney, and my paper I will be reviewing is examining the influence of the river-lake interaction on the drought and water resource in Poyang Lake Basin. This was written in January of 2015 and partially co-written by our professor Yang Hong. I thought that this would be an interesting paper to do because I think that the topic is really interesting as far as the hydrology is concerned, but I also think it ties in well with the other class that I'm taking this summer in hydroclimatology and the facts of drought that we had just discussed in that class. So I thought it was a nice pairing of both the classes that I'm taking this summer. So what makes this an important topic? Well, the Poyang Lake is China's largest freshwater lake and is located on the southern bank of the lower Yangtze River. The water level of the lake depends on the watershed runoff from the 5 tributary river basins and the water exchanges with the Yangtze River. It varies greatly both in volume and area with seasonal and interannual changes. There's a station at the junction of the Poyang Lake and the Yangtze River, and the streamflow from that station is regarded as the outflow of the lake. The highest recorded lake level at the hydrological station is 22.5 meters, and the lowest lake level at the same station is only 5.9 meters. So there's a great variance there in the difference between the highs and lows of the lake. Recently, low water levels in the drier season of the Yangtze River have started earlier and have lasted longer, which has made the debate for whether the Three Gorges Dam has contributed to the decrease in water level of the lake. Although there are some studies about the influences of the drought and the Three Gorges Dam, many questions still remain, such as how do the droughts in the Poyang Lake Basin together with the associated streamflow of the upper Yangtze River affect the water resources of the Poyang Lake? This paper tried to cover 3 main questions. Are there any regularity of the extreme droughts in the Poyang Lake Basin, and how do they affect the water resources? To what extent does the low streamflow of the Yangtze River affect the water resources in the Poyang Lake? And are there any differences in interaction of the Yangtze River and the Poyang Lake before and after the impoundment of the Three Gorges Dam? So here's an actual picture of the lake. This is the Yangtze River here, following to the north. And the lake's basin is roughly drawn something like this. And water spills out from the river into the lake, affecting its water level. In the next pictures, we're going to zoom in and focus on this island in the northern area, right below the flowing of the Yangtze River. So here's that island that we just saw in the previous picture. Take special note of these carrier barges that are carrying freight through the river, or through the lake rather. And this photo was taken in September of 2011. And the water level comes up and surrounds this lake pretty nice, or surrounds this island pretty nicely. You can see that it's clearly an island and surrounded by water on all sides. And in the next picture, in February of 2016, there's actually a shoreline, and this water no longer comes all the way up to the island. There's no more boats that can go through here. And here's that same island, but in the distance is the city, and people can actually walk all the way across the dirt out to the island, and this obviously at one time was all water to get out to here. And here's the island in the background, and there's one of those shipping carriers that we saw in the first photo, just sitting on the lake bed. So the methods of this paper, took some stream flow and water level data, took water level data from 16 hydrological stations during the period of 1956 to 2009. and 215 daily precipitation stations, 83 of which are stationed in the Poyang Lake basin, and that was from 1957 to 2009. The SPI was used to measure the drought index, and it's based on the probability of an observed precipitation deficit occurring over a given period of time. It's a useful tool for monitoring dry and wet periods on multiple timescales and for comparing climatic conditions of areas governed by different hydrological regimes. The empirical orthogonal function, or EOF, method is used to analyze the main drought features of spatial and temporal variability in the Poyang Lake basin. Basically, the goal of the EOF analysis is to reduce the dimensionality of the original dataset. So here is a figure that's actually taken from the paper. It shows each one of these rain gauges that they used throughout the basins. Here's the lake and some of the hydrological stations flowing into the lake. Above that figure is another figure that actually shows the lake and the southern Yangtze River basin. And right here is the Three Gorges Dam. So it's damming up the water above the basin and obstructing some of the water from flowing into the southern basin and into the lake, which is right there. So in the results, there are 6 continuous extreme drought events found in the Poyang Lake basin during the past 60 years. 4 of the 6 droughts exceeded 30 months of duration, so they're pretty long. The longest of the 2 droughts were in the 60s and in the 2000s, and each one of those had durations of 45 and 56 months at magnitudes of 172 and 189. The characteristics of the droughts during the 2000s are pretty similar to those in the 1960s in terms of drought magnitude, duration, and intensity. However, there is a one-year interval breakup between the 2 extreme droughts in the 2000s, whereas the extreme droughts in the 1960s occurred consecutively. So here are these 6 droughts. Here's the one in the 1960s, taking up a very long period of time, and here are the 2 2000s ones. But you can see in 2006 there is that 1-year breakup in the drought. The inflow is less than the outflow in these graphs, thus showing the drought of the area. So the operation of the Three Gorges Dam has changed the seasonal variations of the Poyang Lake and the Yangtze River. And the strongest influence of the Three Gorges Dam on the lower Yangtze occurs mainly from late September to early November. And that is when the dam is actually impeding the flow upstream and damming up the Yangtze. So in conclusions, we wanted to answer the 3 questions, and are there any regularity to the basin, and are there any regularity to the droughts in the basin, and how do they affect the water resources? And yes, there are 6 extreme drought events, and they do have some regularity, and they can be observed. How much does the low flow of the Yangtze affect the water resource? It affects it a great deal. The lake is relying on the inflow of the water from the Yangtze to offset the lake's outputs. And did the Three Gorges Dam affect the lake and the Yangtze River at all, especially in the southern Yangtze River basin? And yes, the dam is altering the seasonal patterns of flow into the lake. So in conclusion, extreme droughts in the Poyang Lake and the upper Yangtze River coincided with the impounding of the Three Gorges Dam and is the main cause of the low water level in the Poyang Lake. Although the impact of the recent droughts in the Poyang Lake and upper Yangtze reaches has played a crucial role in the low water level of the lake, more attention should be paid to its sensitivity to the influence of the large dam-induced changes in the interaction between the river and the lake, particularly during the impounding months. Thank you.